All right, welcome everyone again. JB and JC here from FFL Consultants. We are going to deliver everything we can that's factual and informative for you to know. So, JC loves those sound effects. Love that. All right, again, and we haven't been on since November, but God, I think we've taken over 1,000 calls from all of you. Remember, you can call us anytime. If you're an FFL in America, call us anytime. And if you're a member, NSSF member, VIP, or otherwise NSSF, your trade association supports us in making sure you get the right answer to your questions. So uh, there's our information for anybody who is new to this call. I know we have a lot of new registrants in the last couple of weeks. A lot of folks want to hear what we heard on behalf of the FFLs from the White House. But there's our information, our contact information. We will also show this at the end of the session. So, and it'll be in the recording, obviously, that goes out to all of you. So we're just going to jump right in here, guys. Again, time is money. So let's tell you about what we learned this morning. And we were on the, oh, I'm sorry. Here's our agenda for today. What we learned, we're going to go through some very brief ATF statistical information, very brief. Talk to you about the 5 stupid things we've been seeing and what's getting still continues to get gun dealers in trouble. From our compliance corner, we've got a few legal updates specific to states, so you want to stay tuned for that. We're going to do our famous true and false. Love our true and false game, and ask us anything rapid fire at the end. But very importantly, let's jump into protecting your Second Amendment rights. If you did get our prior emails, we started communicating this on Friday night, February 7th. I think we heard about it at about 5:15 p.m. and it just started going out from there. We're sorry if we didn't get back to you. We took over 300 calls this weekend, and I think there was over 1,000 emails. We just couldn't respond to them. But we got the answers for you today. The White House staff was working all weekend on this. They didn't take Saturday and Sunday off. They had everything ready for us this morning at our time, 8:30 our time. We were on this call. And here's just from the White House Director of Strategic Initiatives. This is the man that is in Alex, who's in charge of getting all of these executive orders published, consolidated, and streamlined for distribution. He hosted our call this morning. And JC, just jump in on any as I'll go slow on the bullets in case I miss anything.
Sure.
Yeah, first of all, there was a pause on revocation hearings, but litigation continues, correct, JC?
That is correct. There is a pause on revocation hearings as it stands. They are going to be reviewing all current revocation notices, anything that's currently in the pipeline. We had one literally canceled this morning that we were still negotiating stuff on last week. So, and we anticipate that all future ones are going to go through the same process. Luckily, some of those are far enough out right now that we don't have a lot to worry about in the coming days, but we're going to be monitoring that situation. Anything that's gone into de novo hearings and so on and so forth, that's still being worked out. They're going to be taking a look at these things. So just know that if you're, facing revocation right now, received a notice, those are all going to be under review.
Yeah, and we didn't put it on the bullets because again, we are giving you what we talked about this morning. It was almost an hour, and believe me, the conversation was everything from Second Amendment rights for citizens all the way through the gun dealer restrictions and zero tolerance, and other information too broad to really list out for you. I mean, it was a great call. We're just trying to summarize what we think is critical for you. Again, you can ask questions at the end. But back to the first bullet point on revocation hearings. If you're under inspection right now, and a lot of you are, I think we've got 11 over the last 3 weeks still in process or recently concluded an inspection process. We can just say we don't know what their next steps are, but we do know that revocation hearings, we don't know about notices, but we know about hearings, are on hold. All right.
Yep.
So that's actually good news for anybody still in the funnel in the process. A review of revoked and surrendered FFLs for reapplying. Yeah, JC, you asked this question, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I definitely brought up was anybody that has been revoked previously or surrendered their FFLs, we're trying to get clarity on whether or not you can reapply and what that looks like overall. I would tell you that if you've had a situation where you were revoked, we'll have some insights on what they're going to grant some latitude on. And what direction they're going to go on those. So, what I would recommend you doing is
Is
reach.
down, right, Robert? You almost immediately see a direct impact on the consumer because the
Can you
cost to
please mute
transport
your
those goods.
line?
Um,
Thank,
yeah, I got it. Um,
uh,
JC, I think
sorry about that. Please make sure you're muting your line so we can get through this. Otherwise, it's going to take us all day. So, a couple things. Reach out to us. Let's take a look at your revocation, the grounds for revocation, or in the case where you surrendered your FFL, if they issued you a report of violations, let's take a look at that so we can get an understanding. The folks in the Strategic Initiatives Office is going to want our feedback and some insights into what we're going what could potentially be put forward so they can address that accordingly with the field divisions, because keep in mind there's a lot of moving parts to this. If you reach out to us and you tell me, well, it was just clerical errors and I surrendered my license, well, that doesn't tell me anything. So I need to know specifically. And those of you that feel as if clerical errors are not a big deal, well, there's a few hundred FFLs that were either surrendered or revoked because of quote unquote clerical errors. So you need to change your headset on that. All right. Reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's see what the reasons were, and then we can figure out what direction to go from there.
yeah, yeah. And what we're going to preface just by saying this whole presentation is not about abolishing the ATF. That's not going to happen. It's not about changing the Gun Control Act as it was approved in 1968. It's just all about all the other junk that has occurred over the last, especially the last 3 or 4 years and prior. So on our next, it was brought up that you know when you read through the executive order, there's a sentence in there that says, "At a minimum, the Attorney General shall review within no later than 30 days." Believe me, this is fast and furious. This isn't a maybe. They're going to review anything at all possible that can be involved with the citizen rights or the FFL dealer rights regarding, and we're talking importing and exporting. We're talking everything, guys. The list was extensive, and the group of folks that was on this morning was pretty renowned. But there is taking probably a super deep dive, and that's why it didn't happen right away. There's a super deep dive on the Second Amendment, and we're very excited for that. All right.
And
Um,
keep in mind too, JB, just to add to that, Pam Bondi just got sworn in, so he couldn't really take action until he had an AG. So
Right, and that was the key position to headline all of this is Pam Bondi, and good point, JC. So again, the executive order was a very broad, and that was mentioned many times by the White House staff this morning. This is a very broad directive to review all 2A restrictions on or infringements. Again, it's just not just what happened over the last 4 years. It's all Second Amendment infringements, not just Biden's programs. And the term was used to unwind it fully. Unwind it fully. That's President Trump terminology, as we all kind of understand his language. Pretty cool. So they're going to review all ATF rulings as they are either published or in appeal or wherever they might be, because rulings, as it was clarified, were not any part of the Gun Control Act from 1968. So we have no idea what this means. Everybody was bringing up questions about the recent the marking ruling, the engagement in business ruling, and the response from the White House was all rulings. So this may be a very interesting next 30 days for all of us. All right, but then there was some real good news this week. It was decided you will see, as far as everyone is concerned and knows, you should see, I guess I should be using that word, a National Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act or executive order. So that means, we've been asking for this for years and years and years. Carry your gun, put your gun in your car, go on vacation. Don't worry about which state you're traveling to, across or through. So this hopefully will come. There was no detail on any of these. Please don't ask for any detail. Again, it was a 50-minute call with a lot of information packed in. And then the Hearing Suppression Act was discussed for about, I don't know, that took a long time to get through. But yeah, not only has this been on the block and introduced many times over through different administrations, but why do we have to keep suppressors on controlled on the NFA? Other countries don't. There's more good than evil behind suppressors. So we're gonna hopefully see something this week. Hopefully hear something. Now, again, this isn't approval of anything, but you should see more activity and notifications online and such regarding these to be factual. Additional reactive stipulations that we don't even know about yet. I mean, Mr. Trump is going to review a lot of the comments from today. There's also opportunity for us to submit additional comments to a website we were provided. We have a whole long list, as does the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and all of your other support agencies, representatives and attorneys were on that call this morning. Not to name them all, but all the 3 and 4 letter associations that you may be supporting or citizens are supporting, they're all on a call. And believe me, the list is going to be long and elaborate. And we're pretty excited about this. Let's see. And then other things we asked for that weren't really discussed, but we had opportunity to ask for additional things at the end. And our primary one, JC and I, are steadfast in getting the state laws reviewed, whether it be past, present, and future restrictions on laws and bills that have been passed but not yet implemented. And you all know who you are. It's all the blue states. And there was no holding back. There was lots of talk about blue and red and Democrats and Republicans and liberals. So we're very excited about and you should be, as we know, the community is excited about President Trump being in place and elected. Are there going to be discussions on firearm types? Yes, bans on those, restrictions by state at the state level, magazine bans, waiting hold periods, these cooling off periods, red flag laws was brought up. And obviously, in some of the states, we're facing very strict FFL security requirements. This is just a means to put you out of business. Specifically, I think let's see, we got Illinois, we got New York, we got California, Colorado, Washington, New Mexico. I'm probably missing a few, but we don't want these blue states, to jump on the bandwagon. We'd rather get this, dispelled and decided on sooner than later. And we're not sure these states even have the authority to do what they're doing. And again, we asked for that to be reviewed. Obviously, unbiased support for the firearms industry. There was a big ask by NSSF and our team. And then there was a big ask to review budget allocations for ATF training as compared to the enforcement. We highlighted that. We highlighted and explained the process for issuing a license and the lack of understanding, training, and available resources, and what the government has done to the industries they regulate, specifically the firearms industry, and it being more punitive than educational and supportive. So that was, I think, a well taken comment. And JC, you spent a lot of time on this one. What does future? Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we did put forward, as JB mentioned, is the fact that, what's going on at the state laws and these regulatory bodies that are being stood up. But even more so, in their language, they're taking kind of the same position with enforcement, willful and plain indifference, and the meanings, etc. So we're looking to get something more clearly defined at the federal level because the states seem to be adopting whatever the feds do. So we'll get our arms wrapped around it at a federal level, and hopefully that'll influence some of the activities at the state level. So. And in addition to that, as JB mentioned, I mean, they're going to look at what's going on at the states to make a determination on what's constitutional, what's not, and what they can fight. So stay tuned. Again, this is just the next 30 days, and we anticipate things will trickle. But nothing's going to happen overnight. So don't think that he's just going to lay the hammer down.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about the assault weapon ban only because there's several cases before the Supreme Court and on the agenda for the Supreme Court to continue looking at in hearings. So, I mean, although we didn't talk about it today, it's certainly on the list. So we just don't have any more specifics on, yes, what is an assault weapon? I guess that's the biggest question. All right. So definitions means, I mean, it's all coming to the table. So we're pretty excited. So, hey, we heard from Mr. Trump, now President Trump, prior to his nomination, his election rather, during his process. And guess what? This guy doesn't mean he means business. He doesn't fool around. So we disbanded the White House Office on Gun Violence Prevention. The Biden era policies are all in process of being examined and rolled back. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, although that was signed into law, it's an act passed by Congress. There might be addendums or amendments to that we hope for. Uh, uh, we have Pam Bondi in place. JC explained we have to wait for that. She's plus in case you don't know, the AG's office, Attorney General's office, oversees the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, the IRS Enforcement Bureau. I mean, there's a lot going on here that she has to do, but she's running fast, and we're very excited. And as far as the new ATF director goes, that didn't come up this morning. It came up in prior conversations, though. We don't expect anybody to be nominated tomorrow or next week. You know, if you recall, we ran for almost 12 years without an ATF director prior to Steve Dettelbach. So we wouldn't be surprised if that continues with the AG office overseeing and giving directions to the acting deputy director is Marvin Richardson. We favor Marvin. We like Marvin. He's been a good supporter of the industry to the best of his abilities in prior administrations. I think he's a 30-year person, but we're very happy to have him right now running things, quote unquote, until otherwise is decided. And we have a direct line to Marvin. He's always been a friend, so that's cool. And then reviewed state laws and restrictions. Again, big issue from this morning. So that's in process. And hey, we can't say this, but I think Mr. President Trump would say thanks for your votes. So thank everyone you talked to for voting correctly this time around. All right. So again, if you had questions on any of that, please type it into the chat room, the chat box there, and we'll get to those at the end. We're just going to move quickly as we have just on ATF statistics. The statistics for January weren't available as of yesterday, so we'll get those for you and present them next month. We'll have January and February inspection totals next month. But here's what we've seen. Here, what we do have from December is the states with the top 10 numbers of inspections completed. So, and this does align with our typical rundown that we see each month. So. The unusual, couple outliers here this month were Boston with 23, that whole New England area, and then Chicago had an uptick. But for the most part, the other offices have been on track with having a large number of inspections. Now, what we do know, this is kind of scary, in the last month, we've seen a pop-up of or an increase of excessive inspections out of the Denver office and also Pacific Northwest. So if you guys are in those areas, I mean, it's been crazy. I mean, 2 or 3 a week of you guys calling us in, and then more down in the south of Houston area. And we're not sure, JC. What do you think?
I don't know. They were, living off this directive to get as much done as possible. They're trying to stick to their numbers. Obviously, they're challenged on their numbers, so I don't know what the reason or causality of, an increase or a continued focus. I can tell you, and I think we're going to cover it here in another slide, is that the big focus has been on traces and trace activity. So that in and of itself, if you're having a lot of trace requests, especially if you're having a lot of traces with a short time to crime, that could be instigating it. Where are the guns going and what's being done with the guns? So that could have a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And we thought there's a lot of catch up also. We thought, with the new administration, new AG, that offices who were maybe lower on the list for a number of inspections completed tried to up those numbers before someone came in and reviewed their budgets, personnel, and activities and performance. So anything's possible. Again, that's just our opinion. So, all right, moving on. Oh, and they're also actually over in Virginia too. We had an increase recently. All right. All
That
right.
woke everybody up.
Yeah. And we can't reiterate enough. Every month we're going to give you the five most stupid things we are dealing with, not just in one place or one FFL, but across the board. Again, now between me and JC, I don't know, we're getting 5, 6, 700 calls a month or texts from you guys or emails asking questions or complaining about your inspection. So here we just every month we're just going to tell you the most important things to clarify. Number one, using an out-of-state ID or DL with PCS orders on an active duty service member transfer. Comments, JC.
Using an out-of-state ID DL. So here's the deal. When certain states, especially point of contact states, may have a challenge here. So we need to address those individually. But the bottom line is if you're utilizing PCS orders to establish residency, you need to use their military ID for the background check. Basically, what this does is just simply prove that a military member was there present and the PCS orders are valid. So ensure that you're not utilizing their ID or driver's license. Use their military ID for the identification purposes on the 4473.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to mention this because it's not in our slideshow today, but when you're listing the PCS orders, you have to list the base name along with the city and state where it is located. There is information requested there. And we're getting IOIs out there, violating FFLs, writing out violations for only listing a base and a state. So make sure even if it means writing it twice, you got to write it twice. And military bases are considered a state, a city rather. Am I correct, JC?
Military, yeah. I mean, yes, they are considered a city for all intents and purposes. It's a location, it's a government location within that state, so it's permissible to sell firearms to somebody who is on active duty in that state.
Yeah, so don't leave that blank. I mean, how many IOIs are going to write you up? I don't know, but they're doing it. That's scary. All right, next. What do we got next? We got number 2, not adhering to state laws for mandatory holds. And guys, there's just way too many states this is the state list here. It's too many to remember. Go use our restricted states guide available off of our FFLconsultants.com website. Pull it down off the forms and tools section. We are taking a fresh look at that this week and updating and make sure it's updated for everything we found for the slide presentation today. But until further notice, these holds are still in place. Again, the AG's office is going to look at the statutes and requirements for such. I mean, a lot of these are just simply cooling off periods. In other cases, it gives the background check authority to point of contact states enough time to look at maybe or getting an approval before saying okay to transfer, or getting a delay rather before an approval. There's all types of different reasons why an out-of-state transfer may require a hold for a long gun. So be careful with this. And a lot of folks are losing points on their inspection with this one. All right, again, just too much to go through. There's a lot of states there.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, not having a full understanding of and how to audit and verify your 4473 software.
Yeah, and I'll speak to this one. And we say this to FFLs. If you're going electronic, that's all well and good. But the time to learn how to access the proper A&D record, how to print off the proper A&D record for the inspection, how to access the audit mode for the 4473 software if you're storing electronically. The time to learn all that stuff isn't when the ATF shows up. Keep in mind that our focus when we train you for inspections and prepare you for inspections is to make sure that you take a position when the ATF shows up that demonstrates to them that you are confident and secure in your compliance efforts, and you know how everything is supposed to be done. So when you're fumbling around trying to figure out how to get them the A&D record, or fumbling around trying to figure out how to get them the 4473 access, that's not a good look for you. So you need to make sure that you have documented it somewhere, electronically, whatever. But you need to make sure that you've walked through those steps and you can ensure you can provide what you need to the ATF when they show up. Again, fumbling around at the 11th hour, not a good look for you, and it doesn't portray an air of confidence to the ATF, and that's what we want to do when they show up.
Yeah, along with this one, I mean, we had two recent ATF inspections where the FFL didn't know how to print the open acquisitions for the inventory count for the IOIs, and therefore had to print 1,100 pages because they had to print something. And our opinion is that we don't want you to hand them a jump drive with your digital bound book on it. There's a whole lot of things they can do with that aside from just leaving with it at the end of the day, navigating through, manipulating the data, and examining for other reasons. But hey, you got to know how to print your inventory report. If you don't know how to print it, they know you're not taking inventory.
Exactly.
So again, to JC's point, this is not, this is an everyday practice and routine, not just when the ATF shows up. For all those reasons JC explained. All right, number 4. What do we got? We got, oh my God, and this happened, guys, in the last 30 days. There's 5 premium retail members who called us, and we started digging in with them, fast and hard on their inspection process and supporting them and talking to the ATF on their behalf during the process. And lo and behold, 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 6 actually hadn't paid or renewed their premium program dues. And therefore, we unfortunately, we kept talking to them, but their legal defense fund isn't in place. If they get in trouble, barring this AG action, there still might be legal fees and other financial requirements to put in place. Not only our time, but our time is limited if you're not a premium member. NSSF, strict on that. And if you're not a VIP with us, you're not going to get much help. So make sure your premium retail membership dues are renewed annually. And if you got more questions on that, please give us a ring. We have a way to check and verify if you need to know that. All right, number 5, accepting an out-of-state ID or DL for box 26A, which is for 26A ID, for a handgun without listing complete government-issued documentation on 26B for incomplete address or legal name. Where you have an ID that's not current address or incomplete middle name or middle initial only, that type of thing, and you're not completing box 26B correctly, you're going to get written up. And this seems to be the new hot button on detail for the IOIs. Yeah, you can't say fishing license. You have to say Colorado State Department of Natural Resources fishing license.
Yep.
So if you're not listing the complete issuing authority and title of the document presented to you, no matter what that government issued document, and make sure it's a government issued document, the local town water bill does not suffice. That's as good as an incomplete background check. So,
and make sure that number 9 is completed with whatever address for out of state IDDL. Make sure that if you're transferring a handgun to an out of state person or an individual with an out of state ID or DL, make sure number 9 is their address within the state. You need to make sure that we have too many where they accept the out of state ID, the customer puts their out of state address, but still completes 26B with some sort of supplemental document. Well, that's all well and good, but the 4473 is that record that says where that gun's going to be. And if you're telling the government that that gun's going to be out of state and you transferred it to an out of state resident, that's a revocable violation. So you need to make sure that if you're utilizing that out of state ID, that they put down the in-state address that they're establishing residency in state with. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, and line 9 is the name, 10 is the address, but it could be a out-of-state driver's license. But they live in Colorado now, so make sure you put in the Colorado address in line 10 with your supplemental documentation. The other thing here is we're seeing, and it's again come up, and some IOIs don't even understand this, so they get confused about it. But when you have an out-of-state license with an in-state address, okay, might be a second home, it might be for insurance reasons, whatever. Hey, it's fine to accept that Nevada address or Nevada driver's license with a Colorado address, as long as you're notating in box 32 that that was the situation. Otherwise somebody's going to think they're going to scratch their head and say, well, you haven't explained it, and unless you can provide a copy of that out-of-state driver's license with an in-state address, which we do suggest you do, and make a copy and put in your buddy file, you're going to be trying to prove to the ATF you did everything right when they can say, show us the evidence, and you don't have it. So box 32, I got to tell you, is probably the most unutilized piece of the program for gun dealers. Box 32. Write a little sentence in there, write a phrase, write a couple words that help you recall something about that transfer 2 or 3 years down the road. All right. Those are only 5 stupid things, JC. We'll get to this some more later, but all right, we got some legal updates for you. Stuff you need to know to keep you compliant. All right, JC, we got transferring handguns under 21. God, how many calls did you get on this one? I got about 50. All right. So on or about January 30th, the Fifth Circuit Court down in South, Mid-South, went ahead and issued a ruling and an opinion, rather, that it's okay and unconstitutional to withhold handgun sales to anyone under 21. Well, we know, I'll tell you right away, we already know some dealers went out there and started selling handguns to people under 21. And whether or not that's going to be constitutionally supported or supported by the ATF, no one knows. We couldn't get an answer to that this morning. Yeah. It is under scrutiny, obviously, by the AG's office. It is on the list. But remember, Pam Bondi's been in office since last Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, I think. So they need to look at this. We need to figure out, is this a national ruling? Is this acceptable versus the Gun Control Act? So again, there's a lot of big issues here. Our recommendation, and the NSSF is recommending, that you do not transfer handguns to anyone under 21 until we see something firm, either from the Supreme Court or from the ATF.
Yeah,
so under 21.
This is going to have to come from SCOTUS. They're going to, well, first of all, I don't think the AG is going to challenge this at all now. My thinking is it's still going to have to go up to SCOTUS to get some sort of final. Otherwise, it's just going to be sitting out there until potentially another administration comes in and fights it. So something needs to happen.
Yeah, so no reason to start selling and get yourself in trouble. And
Yeah.
you want this on your record. This is irreversible if it's wrong, so don't do it. No. All right. If you're in Colorado or neighboring or have Colorado residents, I'm sorry. First, we're going to talk about this new House Bill 1439. If you're in Colorado as a gun dealer, yeah, you have a 6.5% excise tax starting April 1st. This letter went out last week. We were kind of got this blindsided by it. I forgot this was even on the block, but it is. It's approved. So we're not going to go through this now, but if you're a Colorado gun dealer, you should have gotten this letter last Wednesday or Thursday. Thank you, Aaron, for sending this my way and making us aware. All the instructions are in that letter. This information is pulled directly from the letter, but you got to start paying this April 1st. And there's information on the bottom of the screen here if you have questions, and then get the letter, either contact us or contact the state and follow up with them quickly. Got to make sure your process is in place, and a return is due on May 1st for you guys. Hate to say it, firearms, parts, precursor parts, and ammunition, all 6.5% excise tax. We do have Bill 169. That's from last year. It did go into effect again in Colorado. And if you have Colorado residents buying long guns in your state, not only do you have a 3-day wait, that's mandatory before you can transfer it, either mandatory 3 days, even if it's an approval, immediate approval, you got to wait 3 days. It's not for a delay or anything like that, or researching. You also have the 21 and over only. Again, this is a ruling that's been in effect, a state law. Will be reviewed by the Attorney General's office, along with other states that have similar type of laws or rulings in effect. But Colorado is 21 and over. Don't get caught selling under 21 in Colorado. Again, this started on or about December 18th, I think, even though it went into effect on November 5th. Nobody really told us when the official date was. It's just that Colorado Bureau of Investigations did a mild posting on this site and they stopped honoring background checks for anyone under 21 years of age.
Yeah, CBI just won't allow the background check to go through.
Yeah, but if you're out of state, be careful because your background checks will go through.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyone.
there's nothing preventing you from doing it in your state's point of contact database or in NICS. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, again, we have this outlined on the restricted states guide if you want to use that. JC, we got July 1st. We got this whole secure along with Washington State, which we don't have details on today, but the whole state laws and for FFLs in Colorado starts July 1st, right?
That's correct. Yeah. We don't know we anticipate something coming to Washington. Believe it or not, New Mexico beat them to the punch. And New Mexico, sorry, but you're going to be doing the same thing that Colorado is. Hopefully, the federal government will be able to do something about it, but don't hold your breath.
And what we will, just because of the content and time today, we're not going to go through any of these state requirements. We will have that next month on our Ask Us In. All right. All right, so we're at SHOT Show. We did a lot of educational seminars. Great to see all of you, hundreds and hundreds of you. Sorry that I forgot some of your names, but seeing you, some of you for the first time was great, so we welcome you for that too. But what came out of SHOT Show, two big things from the FBI NICS team more than anybody. The used firearm database lookup for FFLs is actively being developed and hopefully will be launched by July 1st, May, June, or July. We're telling you July. I don't think it's going to be May, but this will give FFLs the opportunity to research a used gun being presented either for pawn, if you're a pawnbroker, or as a buy if you're buying it as a used gun or a trade-in or consignment. But we don't have any directives on this, and nor will they. We are going to, we stood up and basically said we'll provide SOPs to the industry, so stay tuned for that. The FBI NICS team is simply there to explain what the process and how to do it is. But as far as do you hold the gun, retain the gun, keep the gun, confiscate the gun, they had no answers for me. So we'll take it upon ourselves on behalf of NSSF and do that for you guys.
And one other interesting fact that came out during that session was the fact that you do have the ability to go to local law enforcement and have local law enforcement run the serial number and information for the firearm. You do have that ability. Apparently, that was never communicated down to anyone. And if you do contact local law enforcement to have a gun run, they may not know about it either, believe it or not. So, but do know that option is there. If you choose to want to reach out to your local law enforcement agency and request they do that. Just understand you may run into some hurdles or roadblocks with that.
Yeah, we were shocked. The audience was shocked to hear them say, "Oh yeah, you could have done this since the 2022 when it first went into effect," and we were like, "What?"
Yeah. I was shocked. I was like, "Good communication, guys."
Yeah. All right. Background check option for firearm dealer employees, otherwise known as firearm handler checks. That's probably going to be easier to implement. But again, we will develop SOPs and guidelines for you to use. There's all types of legalities behind this that the FBI NICS team will not even venture down explaining, such as if I do for one, do I have to do for all? What do I do with an employee who comes back denied? Can they appeal? Do I suspend them? All that fun stuff. So we will go ahead and put our heads together and outline specific guidelines for you as we get closer to the issuance and distribution of the actual act. So stay tuned for that. All right, JC, what is this all about?
All right, so the new strategy overall, and I think we've probably covered this a couple times in other sessions that we do. Understand that, and this is something we talked about at SHOT University this year, as well as on other webinars. You need to be paying attention to your traces. You need to be maintaining a trace log so you understand your trace activity and what's going on with your trace activity. What does that mean to you? It's really simple. You should be logging when you get a trace, when you respond to the trace, what the firearm was, who the purchaser was or the transferee was. You should be logging all of that information and keeping track of it. And you should also notate the fact that, the date that it was transferred versus the date that you received the trace. That tells you more or less the time to crime, the time between the time that firearm was sold or transferred to the time it was recovered by law enforcement. Now, obviously, we don't know if it was recovered by law enforcement because it was in a car they pulled over or because it was used in a crime. We don't know that, and you're not going to know that. But at least you'll know that if you start spiking when it comes to traces, um, you know that if you have an inordinately high amount of traces, you are more susceptible to having an ATF inspection because this is their priority. So why not? You're getting the information. Why not stay ahead of it to understand what your trace activity looks like, to know potentially when you could be susceptible to an inspection? That way you stay ahead of it. That's the key. You're always ahead of it. You have this information coming to you, utilize it to your advantage. Okay. You also need to know working relationship with local law enforcement to understand if you're in a high crime area or they're seeing more gun violence in that area. You should know that because that also makes you more susceptible to inspection. This is their inspection strategy. And it actually kind of makes sense, right? Why focus our energy just on, random FFLs who may not have any traces, or firearms that are a cause for concern or transfers that are a cause for concern? Why not focus on those FFLs that you may not have anything to do with it other than the fact that you just happen to be the FFL that transferred the gun? So just keep that in mind that this is their inspection strategy. So if you're on demand too, if you've seen a high number of traces, keep in mind you need to be inspection ready because they could potentially be coming out to pay you a visit to see if there are other diversion or trafficking concerns involved in your firearm transfers. That's bottom line.
Yeah, and I probably get 10 calls a week that say, JB, I'm getting a lot of traces. Should I be worried? And the answer is, if you sold a lot of guns and the longer you've been in business, you are bound to get more traces. That's how it works, right? Whether they pass through you to another FFL or you would want to hand it to a non-licensee and a transfer. The longer you're in business and the more guns you sell, heck, they're going to get stolen out of cars and houses or resold out there and then lost or stolen. So it happens. Just to JC's point, that's why we spend so much time on compliance, compliance, compliance. Be inspection ready every day, be trace ready every day, and you won't have to call us. Just know that it is the way it works and we'll continue to work going forward. And again, we kind of agree with the strategy. Go where you should go. Make sure those guns are being sold legally and correctly. All right. So guys, that's it on traces and inspection strategy. That's what you need to know. All right. Hey, the rule number one. Rule number one. We're going to say it over and over and over and over and over again. On your 4473, simply slow down. Make sure you got your rule of two to review it before you transfer the gun and hand the gun to the customer or ship it out. Make sure you got two people looking at the detail of that acquisition and disposition, the 4473s. Make sure it's right and accurate because once that gun is gone, you'll never be able to fix your information. All right. All right, JC, guess what time it is? All right.
All right.
It is time for true and false. So, all right, let's see how many people don't practice yet, but here's how this works. If you're new to us, we're gonna rapid fire questions to you, see how smart you are and you and your staffs, and if you've been listening to our past webinars. All right, true or false on these questions. All you're gonna do is type a T in your box for true or an F in your chat box for false. Let's see how it goes, and I'm gonna read these off, and we're gonna stump JC. All right, let's see if we do this. Here we go. All right. So it's okay to run a NICS point of contact background check before a customer signs and dates the 4473 as long as all information is provided on the final version of Form 4473. True or false? It's okay to run that background check before the customer signs their certification, basically. True or false?
Let
What do
him
we
get-
see?
I got to get the chat open. There we go.
You get the chat open.
I got it. I got it.
True or false?
Well, I got a lot of falses. Very good. Very good. Anybody put a T down? That one is a false.
All right.
Remember, that form is section A, B, C, etc. Number 1, 2, 3, etc. Don't get ahead of yourself, right? Don't get ahead of yourself. You want to make sure you're following the form as it is, as they use in their own report of violations, as the form is prescribed.
Yep. Yeah, and still a lot of you going to having a customer fill out section B before you fill out section A, and that's a no, 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 no. You will get in trouble for that. All right, someone with a medical marijuana card can purchase a firearm as soon as their card expires. True or false? We're seeing this across many, many new states, so that's why we want to keep talking.
I can't believe I still get this question.
But they can buy a gun as soon as they surrender or the card expires. True or false? What are you seeing, JC?
Oh, let's see. Let's see. We got falses coming through. Falses. Very good. Very good. Yeah. You know, my number one rule with the medical marijuana card, if they're dumb enough to tell you they have a medical marijuana card or present it as identification, they're not smart enough to own a gun. So,
Yeah, but they also might get to that question in section 21 and ask you. So we want to make sure you know they have to wait 1 year from the expiration date of that card to qualify as a non-habitual user of marijuana controlled substance.
Yep.
1 year later. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. A type 1 or type 2 FFL can assemble an AR pistol or AR rifle if the customer brings the parts into them and it would not be considered manufacturing. True or false?
I got kind of a mixed bag, but a lot of falses. A lot of falses. Interesting. A few trues. A few more trues. That is true. The firearm has been entered into commerce, the receiver, whatever it is. So once a firearm has been entered into commerce, you can build it into whatever you want to build it into. And an FFL, it can be considered gunsmithing, and would not be considered manufacturing at that point. It's all about when it was entered into commerce. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, it's a really weird gray area, and there could be IOIs out there that disagree with us per their opinion, but the bottom line is yes, you can put together a firearm once it's been entered into commerce.
Meaning once they bought the parts elsewhere.
Yeah, they bought all the parts. They just bring you in a box of stuff and say, "Can you put this together for me?" So I always kind of laugh about ARs and people asking gunsmiths to build ARs. I'm like, if a 17-year-old in the Army can figure out how to take it down and put it together, I think they can too. But hey, if you can make some money, make some money.
All right. All right. To destroy a firearm, an FFL simply follows ATF guidelines for cutting the receiver and logs destroyed by FFL in the disposition section of the bound book, obviously with a date, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So in the customer section or transferee section of the bound book, you just write destroyed by FFL. True or false?
Oh, everybody's saying true, JB. What say you? There you go. True. Very good. Yeah, just make sure there's an infographic out there about it. If you're going to destroy a firearm other than the way the ATF provides instructions, then you're going to have to get a variance. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. I had we're just going to talk about this real quick, but we had a missing gun at an FFL recently. And we talked through the options for figuring out where your missing gun is. And they said, how about if I just mark it as destroyed by FFL in case I get inspected? I said, well, that's falsifying a record. That's a federal violation of law. And then secondly, what happens if that gun gets located out there in a trace someplace? Say your employee stole it or shoplifted or got lost in transit and all of a sudden it shows up in a trace. I said, you're going to be lying by saying it got destroyed by FFL. So don't take that route. Yeah, not a good option.
Yeah.
All right, a firearm transfer that is shipped but lost in transit must be reported to the local law enforcement agency and ATF within 72 hours by the receiving FFL on a form 3310.11 with description noted as in transit. True or false? Firearm lost in transit.
A lot of falses coming through.
All right, JC, what's the right process?
There you go. So yeah, somebody said it. Matt Jenkins said sending FFL. Correct. Two things. Number one, it is the responsibility of the shipping or sending FFL to report the loss because it's still in their books as being disposed of to you, but you never receive it, so you can't acquire it. So, and it's within 48 hours of knowing that it's lost in transit. So. Um, you are to submit that 3310.11. You are supposed to contact local law enforcement. When you fill out the 3310.11, local law enforcement will issue you a case number. You want to make sure you give that to them. ATF will also issue you a case number, so you want to make sure you document that as well.
Yeah, and when this occurs, guys, if you can't find a gun, you could call us too before you fill out the form. Don't call us after you fill out the form, send it in. That's kind of waste of time for everybody. But we have a 20-step process and 20 things you can do to try to locate that gun in your paperwork, calling customers. 2 weeks ago, we actually drove to an army base to pick up a suppressor that was accidentally transferred by the wrong serial number, same suppressor. I mean, there's crazy things to do to make sure you get back to where you should be on your inventory and accuracy. It's all hope is not failed, and we have some strategic ways to help you get there. But give us a ring before you fill out that form, and we'll help you do that. All right. Let's see what else we got. A next point of contact background check can be run twice for the same customer for the same firearm if the control number is lost or not documented the first time in 27B, basically. Can I run the background check a second time to make sure the customer is approved for a transfer?
Well,
True.
it seems like everybody has been listening. That's for sure. So yeah, that's false. Don't do that. Number one, you're not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. And number two, when you're supposed to keep track of all your NICS transaction numbers and your state point of contact control numbers. But number two, this could lead to a $10,000 plus fine. And if it isn't your first time, it could lead to you being suspended from utilizing your background check system. So keep that in mind as well. So, and is it 10,000 and I want to say for some reason $10,874 is ringing to mind, and we've had quite a few FFLs that have had to pay that fine for misusing the background check system. So it's costly fine, costly
That's
fine.
very costly. One of the few fines you have to pay. You can't negotiate on that. When you misuse of the FBI system, right, JC? That's the one you can't.
Yep.
All right. An active duty military member residing in your state with the photo ID that lists their current in-state address can be processed through NICS or point of contact at the same way as any other customer's process. So active duty military in your state with a state ID with the state address, can they be processed the same way as any other customer?
A lot of truths. A lot of true truths. Very good. Very good. Just make sure that you're utilizing that military ID in what, 26A?
26,
26A,
26,
military ID for the
yeah,
background
26A
check.
military and then 26C PCS. Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
no, no,
26.
no, no, Joe, no, it's not an active. No, no, Joe, it's not. This
Oh,
is
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
the other
Yeah.
way. It's the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're already a resident of the state, don't even go down the military member active duty thing. If they've established state residency, just use their ID as they normally would.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about the addition of the active duty and the permanent change of station and all that. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. While we're talking about this guy, we've also seen recently problems with the effective date. They get in town, their effective date for PCS orders is next week, and you sell them a gun this week. That's a problem. And or no, if you're not listing PCS order numbers, if they're on the form, you can't find them. You got to put a note in there that says no number is listed, and keep a copy of those PCS orders if there's no number listed. We're finding IOIs dinging FFLs for leaving things blank, even though it says if any. So when you have a box and it says if any, and you don't have one, we recommend keeping a copy of whatever that is, a driver's license, no expiration date, or PCS orders, no expiration date. Put that in your buddy file, but don't keep a copy of a military ID card. Not allowed to do that. But make sure you're putting your notes in there. box
Yep.
32. All right. If you miss completing or sending in a multiple firearm report but catch it during your internal audit process, you should simply complete it and send it in to the ATF. True or false?
A lot of truths. Very good. Yeah, that's true. Hey, look, you caught it. Are they going to knock you for one? Probably not. Now, if you're doing something like an annual audit or something and realize that random number 57 haven't been sent in, that's going to be a little different story and could potentially land you in a referral situation where the National Tracing Center pushes down to the local field division to say, hey, this FFL hasn't been sending in their multiple sales. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a very important part of anti-trafficking, gun running, etc. This is a pretty important program.
Yeah.
All right, for FFLs, transfers received at your store, the person completing the form 4473 must be the same person who purchased the firearm online. True or false?
Do, 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 do. A couple falses, but for the most part, all true. Yes, absolutely. Whoever's listed on the invoice as the buyer, payee, purchaser, whatever the case may be, that is the person that should be picking up the firearm. If it's someone other than that, you refuse the sale and you let the shipping FFL know, hey, listen, I'm sending this back to you. Send me a label so I can ship it back.
Yep.
So
And there might be a couple one-off scenarios to this. Give us a call, but otherwise use this as a standard.
Yep. Yep.
You know, we get into issues with husband and wife and whose name was on the credit card and there's joint credit card, that type of stuff you can always call us about. But if Bob Smith bought it online and Susie Brown shows up to do the 4473, that should be a no-go.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, you can be cited for any empty, incorrect, or misspelled or illegible box on the 4473 during an inspection. True or false? Any.
Yeah, that's right. True, everybody. That is true. You can be cited for those violations, even though you feel they're just quote unquote clerical errors. Guess what? It's a violation. It's not completing the form as prescribed.
An FFL can impose stricter in-house rules for completing Form 4473 versus what's required by law. For example, no transfers after 20 days following NICS submittal, or versus the 30 days, or no out-of-state long gun transfers. True or false?
A few falses, believe it or not. No, that's going to be true. You can impose stricter rules in house. There's nothing saying that if you don't get if you get a delay, there's nothing saying that you have to release that firearm upon the Brady date. You can have a policy. We have a number of FFLs that do have a policy that says they won't release the firearm until they get a hard proceed. So keep that in mind. You do have the ability to implement more stringent rules on firearm transfers, and we have a number of FFLs that do.
Yeah, another great one is no sales under 21. I mean, when you're dealing
Yep.
with shootings and handguns and long guns and delays and 10 days and 3 days, rather than screw up, they just say, screw up, I'm not doing anything under 21.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It is a violation of FFL requirements to lose a 4473, or if a transaction serial number cannot be accounted for during an inspection. True or false?
Almost everybody said true. I don't think I see one false on there, JB.
Yeah.
That is true. So keep that in mind. You're responsible for that 4473 if it's involving anything dealing with a firearm transfer or a denied transaction. It doesn't matter. You are the custodian of records for the government. You are required to maintain that Form 4473. And if you are filing your forms by the TTSN, that is that box up in the upper right hand corner. A lot of you use various means of, counting your 4473s. If there are lapses in those numbers, even one, even if you skip one number, you need to make sure you have some sort of placeholder or some sort of identifier that says what happened with that number. Inadvertently skipped a number is fine, but you need to make sure you're documenting it. Otherwise, ATF during an inspection is going to say, why did you skip from 1234 to 1236? Where's 1235? Okay. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. So the absolute worst way to file your forms is alphabetically. Hopefully nobody's doing
Oh,
this. The
oh,
second, The second the second worst way is to file them by transaction serial number, but you might have been doing that for 5 or 10 years. The best way is to file your 4473s by the transaction transfer date in box 36.
Yep.
Yep.
Chronologically. That's the best way to do it.
Yep. All right.
Otherwise, you got more paperwork you have to do.
Yep. All right. The model and manufacturer information entered into the acquisition side of your bound book for a firearm can be anything that matches your invoice, your software drop-down menu, the carton, or the marking on the firearm itself. As long as you have something in the box, it's okay. True or false?
I think they all get it. It's a false.
Well,
Take the info off the gun. Always off the gun.
always off the metal.
Yep, off of the receiver, off of the frame, whatever.
I'm throwing a word of caution here. We put this in there specifically. We've had IOIs go after minor little details that were in maybe your bound book software. Can't mention any one software here, but just because there was a semi-similar listing that you chose off a drop-down menu doesn't mean it's the right marking on the firearm. So don't get caught up in that. You'll get violated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't blame the software or the end user.
Nope.
If it's not the FFL, it is not the FFL's responsibility if the customer does not know or misspells their county for box 10 on the 4473 or enters too much information into a box on the 4473, like United States and foreign country for place of birth. So it's not the FFL's responsibility if the customer screws up. True or false?
Everybody's getting this one, JB. That's a big old false. It's your responsibility to make sure that form is completed properly. What a lot of our, especially on the county piece, what a lot of our FFLs that we support are doing is they're just printing off and laminating a sheet with all the county names within their state. So that way they can just slide it over to the customer and say, find your county, and there's the proper spelling. Especially those of you who are in states that have wonky county names. That could be anything from Native American tribal names and things like that to, foreign kind of quasi, the state was founded by, individuals from another country or whatever the case may be, and they're carrying over names from cities and towns, villages from another country. That's where it gets kind of wonky with the different kind of names and all. So keep that in mind. Something easy, is just simply slide them a piece of paper over with all the county names so that way they can find their county and spell it properly.
Yep. And all you got to do is Google United States Postal Service counties for your state, and you'll come up with a list off the USPS.gov website. You just copy and paste it into a Word document, tweak it and laminate it, put it on bright yellow paper. You're all set.
Yep.
All right, as a gun dealer, you can purchase a handgun from a 19-year-old who walks into your licensed location. True or false? Pawnbrokers, gun dealer, gun shows, you can purchase a handgun from a 19-year or 18, 19, 20-year-old. True or false?
A few false, but most of them are trues, and it is true. You can buy a gun from anybody. 19-year-old, 18-year-old, that's totally fine. They can actually be, per the Gun Control Act, they can be in possession of a handgun. They, believe it or not, whoever wrote this piece of the Gun Control Act, in their infinite wisdom, somebody between 18 and 20 years old can actually buy a handgun in a private transfer situation. They just can't buy it from an FFL. Now, how that made sense when they wrote that, I have no idea, but that's the rule. An 18 to 20-year-old can buy a handgun, but only in a private transaction between two non-licensees. So
now, again, we might see something change with that recent Fifth Circuit Court ruling.
Yeah, we might see something change. Never know.
All right. Boxes 34 and 35 on the Form 4473 are not required to be completed when the form results in a no sale or gun not transferred when the customer is approved but just never picks up the gun. Never returns to pick it up. So I don't have to sign 34, 35.
A lot of falses, a couple of trues, a lot of falses. That's true. Read the form's instructions. And JB, I don't know if it was you or me, actually went to FIPB to get clarification on this because so many FFLs were getting cited for this. We keep a laundry list of FIPB references in order to save FFLs the grief of an IOI who's not exactly clear on what the rules are. So it's true. If the firearm wasn't transferred, but you still conducted a background check, you do not have to complete 34 and 35.
Yeah, you do have to complete it if it was denied or if you canceled it with NICS.
Yep. Denied, canceled, or,
Otherwise you don't, as you say, non-transferred but went through NICS, you should. Best practice is to always sign 34, 35.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, you want to know, you want them to look, you never know who's outside the store watching that individual come in to buy a gun. So, and 3 months from now, you're not going to remember who that person was that, was interacting with the customer. So, is it a good practice to complete 34 and 35? Absolutely. It's absolutely a good practice. So, you know who was involved in that transaction.
all right, running the NICS or NTN query reports is a waste of time and doesn't really have long-term value for smaller gun dealers.
Mhm.
True
We've
or
only
false?
been harping on this for years.
Running
Yeah,
those,
everybody's coming up with the right answer. False, false. It's a very good. Let me tell you, there are so many FFLs that their FFL was saved because they had this report. Doesn't mean that, in situations where it came into question on the NTN or whatever, that they, uh, transposed numbers and letters or they left off a number or whatever. Because they had that report, that turned it from a violation of not running a background check to not recording the proper information. Both violations, one's revocable, one's not. So keep that in mind. That we had that report, we worked with the Knicks team to get that report built out for you guys. Make sure you're taking advantage of it. I mean, that's for you. That's just as much for you as it is for the ATF because they get that same report when they come do an inspection, and they're bringing 60 days of the last of your last NTNs that were issued to you to verify that your records are done properly. So,
and if they're going through an inspection and 5 months ago pull a 4473 that has no NTN number or an incomplete NTN, you're going to get cited. This is in addition to the detailed status reports you can print or save every time you get a decision from NTN, NICS, or your point of contact state if they provide one. So you get those immediate reports, save them to a PDF, print them out and save them, put them in your
yeah, you
bank.
don't have to print them off. I mean, you can save them electronically. Just make sure you use some naming convention that you can quickly and easily find them.
Yeah. And lastly, an FFL can request a customer to re-sign or wet sign boxes 22 and 30, which are your signature lines, with a pen if the signatures are unclear or appear incomplete due to electronic signature. True or false? You can ask the customer to re-sign the forms after you
Lots of
print them out.
trues, Jamie. Lots of trues. Very good. Yes, absolutely. You can have them re-sign if and look, we're challenging IOIs on this because, they're saying, well, a line's not a signature, or your initials isn't a signature. Well, who are you to say what my signature is? So, and I've had plenty of ATF personnel say, even my signature is just my initials. So, just keep in mind that if it doesn't appear to be a signature, have them fix that and put their real signature down.
Yeah, and does it have to match a driver's license? Well, legally, no, but hey, an X or a couple, if they sign their full name when they first certified in box 23, 22, and then they come back and research, pick up a gun a week later and then only put initials, that's what IOIs are going after and accusing you of suspicious activity. So,
Mhm.
hey, ask the customer to re-sign it, like try to get them to be congruent. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, we can fight it, but why fight it if you don't have to, right? All right. All right, guys, improve your knowledge. That was great, true and false. Thanks for participating. If you did, that's always fun. Just remind you, hey, our FFL Academy is still on our primary site, courses.fflcacademy.com. Hey, guys, we call this FFL Basic Training. And thank you. Over 30,000 of you and your employees have taken these courses. Thank you very much. It's keeping you out of trouble. It's keeping you educated. It's keeping you compliant. And it's great to tell the ATF you have a training program in place if and when they come to inspect you. So that's it. Until it changes, you'll get a notification when it changes to our other site that's still getting rebuilt, courses www.fflcacademy.com. You'll find the free training courses right there. All right, and who had great inspections? Well, a few of you did, but God, for 2.5 months, we thought we'd have a longer list, but it's only a one pager here, guys. We thought we'd have 20, 30, 40 of you out here with great IOI inspections from the ATF, but no, we got Mary in Texas. Congratulations. Dan up in Minnesota, Ashley in Nevada, Derek in South Carolina, Tim in Colorado. Good job. Kevin and Eddie over in North Carolina, Michelle in Texas, Marcia in California, of all places. Went through a tough one out there with the DOJ and ATF. And then we got Don up in Maine. Good job, you guys up there. And Adam, you got an A plus from me when I was out there in Kansas I think that was in December. Congratulations, guys. We wish there was triple the amount of folks out here with perfect performances, but maybe next time. Do your part and make sure you're getting compliance training in place and checking those forms 2 and 3 times before the gun gets transferred. This is a sad story, but we have too many of you calling us after the ATF either has finished the inspection or they've been there for 3 days. So please call us whenever the ATF shows up, whether it be inspections or you have trace problems or that investigator shows up with a select trace or a special investigation he or she needs to look at your bound book, or if you get warning letters and any other adverse action, please call us, JC and myself. We're here to take your call. And again, we're supported by the National Shooting Sports Foundation to keep you guys in business. We're going to remind you that although there's a lot going on with the ATF and the Attorney General's office, these are the critical problems that will and can get you in trouble based on the Gun Control Act. Again, they'll be looking at the enforcement, they'll be looking at the willful negligence, but you could go download this list for your training, in-house training purposes off our website under the Forms and Tools tab. And just that's probably not going to change. We say, do you have PRM? What is PRM? The National Shooting Sports Foundation's premium retail membership program. Guys, and girls, it's the cheapest game in town. People call us all the time. How much does it cost for you to come out and spend a day or two at my location? Well, the answer is easy. If you have no adverse action, you got good reports from the ATF, or you haven't been inspected yet, it's $750 to join them the first year. Get us to come out for that full day ATF mock audit inspection, but more than anything else, you get that legal defense funding in place, $25,000 to $25,000 if you get in trouble. And we've been doing this for 10 years with the NSSF, even before zero tolerance. I mean, this program's been around forever, best kept secret. They haven't raised the prices in 6 or 7 years. It's $2.05 a day. Take advantage of it. Get us out. Do your inspections before the ATF shows up. Anyway, ready or not, we are here for rapid fire. Get your questions answered. We got a ton of questions in that chat room. Keep them coming. If you heard something you need an answer to, go ahead and ask it. JC, I'm going to be shooting these your way. Are you ready to answer the questions?
I am very, very ready. Go for it.
All right.
Let me see what you got.
Yeah, just a reminder, this whole session is being recorded. If you can't stay for the next part of this, it's recorded. We'll send you a link to the recording at the end of this week. Thank you very much and for playing along and participating. So here we go. All right, just to clarify, the AFMA report, which is due when? When's AFMA due?
When is AFMA due? AFMA due is what, April 1st?
April 1st for all manufacturers, It says
even if you don't manufacture anything.
The question is, just to clarify, is all zeros if we don't manufacture anything correct?
I beat you to the question, yeah. Even if you're all zeros, you have to submit it. And by the way, you can submit your AFMA through e-forms now. You don't even have to do the paper form anymore. So
yes.
Do it on e-forms. Make your life easy.
All right, now I got to get the next one. I lost my license. Will we be able to reapply?
That is the big question. You guys have our contact information. Reach out, schedule some time with me. Let me review why you lost your license, and I can see what the likelihood is. In addition, White House is asking for us to put forward specific scenarios for them to address. and make sure are included in the conversation. So reach out to us, and I can get you some insights, kind of give you my feel of it, and we can go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. JC handles licensing and adverse action. So don't send it to me, please. Send it to JC.
Yeah, send it to me. Yeah.
I got enough to take care of. All right.
Yeah.
If I replace a frame and a different person picks up the gun as a gunsmithing, did a mark question one or left blank?
You're talking about 21A. 21A is you're replacing the frame, I assume, because something is wrong with the original frame, which is totally acceptable. You can do that in a gunsmithing situation. But for that scenario, if a different person is coming in to pick it up, you leave 21A blank.
What you
That is
do?
the only time you leave 21A blank. I would also write something in box 32, just describing the scenario or create some sort of memo for record in your system that said a different person came to pick it up. Brother, son, uncle, whatever, wife. But a
Oh, as a
4473 is required and a
yeah,
background check.
yep. Background. Yeah, I was going to say background check is required for that scenario. Otherwise, same person picking it up does not need a background check.
That is correct. If it's the same person picking it up, you don't even have to do a 4473.
Yep. All right. Next one was Gunju said any status on FFLs getting access to the used gun database. Yeah, we're hoping for May, June, or July. Stay tuned for that.
I
And you
mean, we've been
signed.
holding our breath for 2 years now, so God only knows.
Okay. New Mexico has some bad ones in legislative right now. Yeah, New
Yeah.
Mexico, you're not doing well. There's too many states. There's like 10 states, guys. We're hoping we give that long list to the White House from Maryland to Washington to New York to New Jersey. I mean,
And UFFLs in New Mexico, if you have not heard of it, New Mexico does have I don't know what do we call them, an FFL kind of association, a gun dealers association down there. So if you want info on that, please feel free to reach out. I'll connect you with the folks that are running that program. They're also clients of ours, so we'll get you connected with them so you can participate in testimony and so on and so forth.
yep. If I'm logging in a fire control unit from say, what do I put in my A&D book?
It's a frame. I always recommend doing frame and then FCU in parentheses. So that way during inventory, somebody's not looking for a physical frame. They know it's a fire control unit. But it is required to be in your book as a frame.
We've also, yeah, Jason, I mean, we've also gotten FIPB on fire control unit also. So
Yeah.
as long as to JC's point, be specific. So
Yeah.
you know what you're looking for. What if somebody says, what if they have a state license to bypass the NICS check? Don't know exactly.
Well, if you're a NICS exempt state, then you shouldn't be running a background check. If you're utilizing their concealed carry license to basically as the exception. Now, there's nothing saying that you have to accept their concealed carry permit in those states that allow it. You can still run a background check on them and not accept the concealed carry permit as an exemption.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions from Texas, big state, a lot of gun dealers. You know, somebody walks in just because they have a TLC,
LTC.
license, yeah, doesn't mean you have
License.
to honor it. Yeah,
Right.
you don't know the
If-
customer.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years since they had it issued. You're not sure what happened in the last 4 years for that person. You don't want to take a risk. You don't want if that gun's used in a shooting or whatever crime, you don't want to be especially, the southern border states. I mean, you don't have to use an LTC or honor the LTC rule.
Yeah. And also keep in mind in Texas specifically, I don't know of any other states
Just
that do
Texas.
this, but Texas definitely has the solution to it's an online application that you can verify, check the status of that license to carry. So, and we've had a number of situations where the license to carry was suspended. So,
All right, we got a military item. What if no base is listed, just a command or a ship? Example, we got a lot of Navy orders out of Virginia. Yeah, if they're assigned to a ship.
if they're assigned to a ship, that's what they're assigned to. Whatever their command is, you put in whatever their command is.
Yeah. And again, box 32 and keep
Yep.
a copy in your files.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, box 32 is most
Yeah, if they're assigned to, I don't know, Naval Air Station or Naval or U.S. Navy ship or whatever. Just put, U.S. Navy ship and whatever that ship is.
and
So,
where it's docked or what.
yeah, where it's docked.
Yeah, that would be the city and state. And for be careful of temporary service orders like recruiters and different things. Make sure you're looking closely at the wording.
Yeah.
Um, Nebraska. All right, for military ID, what is the state? Colorado CBI does not. Oh yeah, JC, this one's for Colorado. State. Colorado CBI does not list a federal ID as a selectable item.
Yeah, in the case of military members on PCS orders, when you're running the background check on those, unfortunately, you're going to have to call it in. Or what we're dealing with one FFL is you can write both in 26A. That you saw the military ID, but the state of Colorado CBI only accepts a DL for the online stuff. So you can put both, but you got to make sure you put both.
Yeah, you can list two IDs in box 26A, put a little line through, parallel line, horizontal line rather across, and just write two in there.
Yep.
One above it, one.
Remember those the military ID just kind of is your backup to the fact that you accepted PCS orders. And make sure you're using their address in the state. In Colorado specifically, it's whatever their address is in the state.
Right.
Not their record, home of record.
All right, next, will there be upcoming requirement to maintain electronic record keeping as a load dealer? I'm old school using paper.
Will there be a requirement to?
Yeah.
No. They'll never require you to.
Right.
It's, you can go halfway and just use electronic A&D and electronic 4473. You don't have to, put it up in the cloud. You can still print off stuff. You can go a quarter of the way and just do electronic A&D and continue to use electronic, or rather paper 4473s. It's up to you. Solutions like Fastbound and some of the other ones out there, they allow you to go, kind of half and half. They allow you to do it a number of different ways. So, yep.
Yeah, this isn't a question. I got to read it from Tony. Box 32 is the most underused tool of the FFLs on the 4473, followed only by reading the instructions.
Yeah. And you know how many, what, I've been doing this for 15 years now. For probably the better part of at least a decade, I've been asking ATF when they review and revise the 4473, can you make that box just a little bit bigger? And they always say no.
Right. All right, next, we received two suppressors. The Form 3 states the manufacturer is Smith & Wesson. However, nowhere on the suppressor or the box and labeling says Smith & Wesson. It says Gemtech model, blah, blah, blah.
Gemtech got bought by Smith & Wesson. It's a TBA.
I called the NFA and they suggested I email NFA a fax for further assistance. Do you have a quick answer?
Yeah, the quick answer is whatever's on the can. Put in whatever's on the can. Don't worry about Smith & Wesson versus Gemtech, et cetera, et cetera. Just put whatever's on the can.
Again, that would be keep that Form 3, make notes on it, explain yourself,
Yep.
so you can refer back to it later. But there's a lot of IOIs who, first of all, don't understand NFA.
Yep.
And they're going to bitch and moan about you being wrong when we can help you be right.
All right. It's Gemtech. Don't worry about it.
I said Gemtech. Yep. All right. You have. All right. Also, for the Colorado 6.5 from Rich says, also for Colorado 6.5% excise tax is only for your business net income. Is if it's more than $20,000 per year. I think you still have to register and I think submit a form. Yeah. On this Colorado thing, take a look at the details of that letter.
Yeah.
I don't think that's correct, Rich. I do think it's everyone, but there is some exemptions based on.
Yeah, JB, the $20,000 thing is correct.
Is it you don't do any tax under 20,000?
Under 20 grand, yeah.
Okay. And the other one was
down for home-based guys.
Yeah, but home base still has. If you're over 20,000 home base, I had that question the other day. You still have a retail location.
Yep. Oh, as far as licensing is concerned, yeah, even home-based FFLs are going to be required to get a license.
Yeah. And pay if you're over 20,000. So, all right.
Yeah.
All right. If you live in Colorado, contact your representative. Okay. Yeah. Contact me. How do you verify address for military ID if a customer is out of state but has orders in your state? Example, a customer doesn't live on base, not required to have an ID in your state. If we supposed to use the military ID, we have customers whose orders state a city near us, but are recruiters working out of a local office or live in a private residence.
They write down their residence address, so you have no responsibility to verify the address that they put in Block 10. The bottom line is they're a military member. They've proven they're an active duty military member and have provided you with a copy of the orders to review. You document in 26C what it calls for. Trust me, if the government wants to find a military member, they're going to go to their command section or their base they are assigned to, and they'll find them. I can tell you point blank from experience, being in the military, that a first sergeant or commander can put their hands on a military member very quickly.
Yeah, but it seems like there's a lot of confusion on military, not only today, but from regular calls. Yeah, if you could get them to get an ID, in-state driver's license that shows the current address, treat them as a regular citizen of the state.
Yeah. But otherwise, whatever they put down for their residence is, take it for their word. That's their residence.
As long as it's in the state where they're based. If it's
Exactly.
across the river or in
Yep.
another state, that's a different problem, and you also need something for 26B.
Yep.
Right, to establish proof of residency in another state. All right. What if almost 50% of the traces receive are for firearms pawned by an individual and then picked up by the same individual who is the original owner of the firearm, but they even pawned it to us. I honestly don't know how they are getting our pawn information. Pawn leads online.
They're recovering the firearms is what they're doing. The firearm has been recovered for some reason, or it's come in contact with law enforcement somehow. So it could be something as simple as, they paid a visit to his house or they found the guns in the car and they're running all of the guns. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was used in a crime. It just means that law enforcement has somehow, some way come in contact with that firearm. So, in those instances, it could be something like I don't know, his house got burglarized and all his guns got stolen. It could be that too. So, keep that in mind.
Yeah, and it could be that the gun transferred through you to someone else, to another dealer or to somehow. I mean, if it passes through your place of business, you're going to be involved in that trace. Yep. Okay, I gotta get past these trues and falses. Okay, hang in there, guys. A lot of trues, falses. Maybe we should. Oh, here we go. Okay. I received a trace request for a pistol I sold a customer that is a friend of mine. When I checked with the person I sold it to, they still had the pistol. Why would I get a request for a pistol that's still possessed by the purchaser? Would this be a test for me regarding responding in a timely manner?
No, they don't just do traces for testing. No. Who knows? It could be any number of reasons. Again, did he get stopped by law enforcement and they ran a trace on it? Was there some sort of personal situation that it came in contact with law enforcement? I don't know. But no, they don't just do tests, random tests of FFLs to see if they can catch you.
Yeah. Now, I'm just going to say out loud, and this is just my personal opinion, but if you're participating as a pawnbroker in leads online for any reason, that information is accessible to select law enforcement agencies
Sure.
who participate.
Sure.
And is somebody going fishing? Do they have a warrant for somebody and then going fishing regarding firearms that are somehow in that database? That's possible. But again, my personal opinion, but I've heard of stranger things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Langford, if you can hit your space bar and just tell us what is your next, is that true for silencers too? Langford, are you available to expand on that? Okay, we'll keep going. All right, next question. Has it as one unnecessary sender was told to report it? I don't know what that means. True.
I think is that true for silencers too? If that was in the true and false, that may have been a manufacturing question about silencers. So Langford, if you're listening in, manufacturing, if a firearm, say a silencer comes into gunsmithing, and you have to replace a piece of part or component, that's still considered gunsmithing. Just keep in mind, as far as the manufacturing of a silencer is concerned, very, very different guidance on silencers as far as manufacturing. Baffles are considered a silencer. The receiver is whatever connects to the firearm. So if there's a question about silencers, reach out to me directly on that because silencers are a little bit of a nuance.
Yeah. JC, we get this a lot. Gun comes in from gun buyer or gun broker. Mr. Smith bought the gun online. It comes in, and Susie Brown shows up to do the 4473. We have a comment that says, we will do the transfer to the original buyer, then the second transfer from the buyer to the new person. What's your opinion on that?
Oh no, that 100% looks like a straw purchase. I appreciate the fact that you're doing, a secondary 4473 and background check, but I'd be very careful with that. That has straw purchase written all over it to me. So
Yeah, and the ATF will run fast on that, even though it sounds all good and somebody passes a background check, they'll throw suspicious activity into that one.
yeah.
Yeah. Month and all each month. So somebody's saying, I do on my transaction serial numbers, I do the year, month, and 001 through 999 each month. That's not the way the transaction serial number is supposed to work. You might find scrutiny from different IOIs who show up and say you're supposed to start at 1 on day 1 of your license and continue to 83,000 on 10 years later.
Yeah. You can use it how you want. It doesn't really make sense to me, but you really need to keep some sort of continuity in the format.
Yeah, and they will test it. They will test you to when you do use some type of year, month, and number system, they will try to poke holes in that. Yeah, right. Somebody asked about that straw purchase example I just explained you. They can gift a gun also, I think, right? The answer would be no to that.
Yeah, that it just looks too much like a straw and it's going to cause concern.
Okay. So Jeff says, how is that true buy from an under 21 buy from an under 21 if the state law is illegal for the person to possess a gun under 21? Jeff, that would be dependent on your state.
Yeah.
Many states, most states in America allow under 21, anybody over 18 or over to possess a handgun.
Yeah.
There's only 9 or 10 states that prevent that. So, yeah.
But as an FFL, you can purchase a firearm from an 18 to 21-year-old.
Yeah.
A handgun.
We had one perfect. Thanks, Wayne. Great inspection.
Remember, it's illegal for them to possess it. It's not illegal for you to purchase it.
Yeah. Zero tolerance ETA for going away.
No.
Pending.
Yeah. 30 days.
Pending. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We'll let you know as soon as we know more. Yeah. This is a very fluid situation.
Software access software does not have an option for military ID. How do we proceed for PCS orders?
Are you talking about access as an
AXIS? Access.
Contact access and tell them that they're not in compliance. I mean, that's the bottom line. Access is not in compliance. You're telling me they don't have a capability of inputting a DoD CAC card or U.S. military ID or U.S. Army ID, Air Force ID? I find that hard to believe. There may be some functionality that needs to be turned on. I don't know. Contact access and ask them why they're not in compliance.
Yeah. Yeah, we get several calls a week about software not working right. And what we find is no matter what software package it is, it either wasn't installed correctly or it's just not set up correctly for you. And there's buttons and controls and filters based on the state you do business in. So usually we just tell you go back to the provider and find out. And we work with a lot of providers to help set up and vet their software and the workflow and make sure it's working right. So we don't know all the ins and outs of every software package, but get in touch with your provider. To JC's point, they may not be in compliance with allowing you to do what you're supposed to do. All right. I may have missed it, but what would be a good time frame to be wary of time to crime? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Anything within a year. And keep in mind, if you have 25 or more trace requests coming in where the time to crime was within a year of the transfer, you're susceptible to a requirement called Demand 2. And Demand 2 requires you on a quarterly basis to submit information about used firearms that you are acquiring from the public. So keep that in mind. So 25 within a year sets off a flag at the training center to get you to submit on a quarterly basis firearm information. So that's what I would tell you.
Yeah. Next, I received a revolver in as a transfer. It was marked black powder only on the barrel. The sending dealer told me the customer he agreed, told the customer he had to do paperwork on it. I don't agree. What's correct?
If it isn't capable of accepting conventional or inline ammunition or being converted to do so, and is truly black powder only, then no, you do not have to do paperwork on it.
Yeah, and we get a couple calls every week or pictures. I mean, all of you know you can text us pictures and ask us that question: is this regulated or not? The picture really helps us. Otherwise, we have to look it up and figure it all out. But to JC's point, never take somebody else's word for it. I mean, we got collectors out there bitching and moaning, and people buying what they think are antique guns and don't need a 4473. And most of the people are wrong. I mean, if it takes conventional ammunition that you could buy in the United States today at Cabela's or online, it's not an antique anymore. It needs a 4473. All right. Do I get set up with if anyone has NSSF questions, just dial me or JC directly. We'll get you hooked up, listed. We'll explain the benefits and scheduling and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
keep in mind, Terry mentioned something here about black powder in Illinois. Yes, if you're in a restricted state and it has specifics about black powder, yes, absolutely. State can go above and beyond what the GCA dictates. So, in the state of Illinois, black powder is considered a firearm, then you have to do the proper things as far as the state is concerned.
Yeah, I believe that's Massachusetts too and some others. So yeah, watch our restricted states guide. I just made a note. We're going to be adding that
Yeah.
to our states where it's missing. Okay. And again, black folks think they know everything because they read it on the internet.
Yeah.
All right. RC says, over the last months, I occasionally noticed the NICS e-check site will clock after clicking the final submit button to submit a background check. I will usually wait a solid minute. But if the site says clocked after 1 minute, I will refresh the page and click submit again. Is it possible two end-to-end checks are being submitted even though the site stays clocked and did not dispute a result? Refreshing the page typically allows a successful submission. Wow, I haven't heard about clock.
I haven't heard about clock either. A few things. Make sure you're using the right browser. Nix doesn't like certain browsers, so make sure you're doing that. Could be something with your internet connection as well. Um, in those situations where you have something weird like that, I'd almost recommend calling into Nix and saying, "Is there a problem with your website? Because I'm having issues submitting and I'm having to resubmit background checks." And if you get into a situation where you inadvertently ran a second background check and you caught it, you need to contact Nix and cancel the second background check that you initiated to make sure that you aren't in violation of the GCA and what they would consider an abuse of their system. So I've never heard of this clock thing. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, call NTN, I'm sorry, call the Nix hotline. We can get that for you if you need it. I don't have it handy right now. But yeah, call liaison and ask the questions. Don't guess and don't submit another background check because then you're going to be dinged on missing a 4473 for an extra background check. Okay. Okay, Josh says, I'm in the middle of an inspection. Lucky you, Josh. They were on site last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then disappeared. They didn't finish the inspection, and halfway through the inspection, they had some Trump meeting and got upset. Are they pulled off active inspection? Should I reach out and remind them to finish my inspection?
Um, Reach out to me and talk to me and let me know where you're at. And
Florida, yeah, Florida.
oh, it's in Florida.
Yeah.
It doesn't say where.
Yeah, it's Lakeland. So it's
Oh,
Josh.
it's
He's one
Tampa.
of our PRMs. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Josh, give me a call. Give JC a call later. JC is very comfortable with the your DIO down there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
just call
find out what's
JC.
going on.
Yeah, yeah. Josh is.
I can call the area supervisor too and find
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. How is Jess? How can I buy it from under 21 if the state law is illegal for that person to possess? I understand it for USA.
Yeah. Look, it's illegal for them to possess it. It's not illegal for you to buy it. How is it? How do they have possession of it? I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's illegal, it's illegal. They shouldn't have possession of it. But
And,
I'm
and
not
in
worried
many,
about them. I'm worried about you.
yeah, and in many states, there's quasi rules that say you can't under 18 can't have a gun except if it's on the home property, in the home, blah blah blah, supervised by a parent. Every state with those types of restrictions is a little bit different, but at the federal level, there is no age or date of birth required in your bound book for acquiring a firearm, if you notice. So.
Right.
We FFL consultants have an affidavit of ownership that we provide to you if you want that says, hey, I'm John Barker. I'm selling my gun to you, Mr. Gun Dealer. I affirm that this gun is rightfully mine and I'm permitted under penalty of law to sell this gun to you. And I know it's a violation or felony if I do so illegally. We have this affidavit we made up years ago that a lot of gun dealers use to document who they're getting used guns from. Attach it to a copy of their ID, put it in a file. Don't worry about it unless an issue comes up.
Right.
Okay. I've been using year and month on number one with a number one year of my license should change now for the last 2 years and moving forward. Scott, I have no idea. I think that's probably to do with the TSN conversation. We had questions about if you can hit your space bar and elaborate on that. Are you available? I've been using year and month with number for 1 year of my license. Should I change that?
I gotta get what he's saying. I would, if you're gonna make a change, I would make the change like, make it a clean break. Like, January 1 or February or March 1 or something like that. If you're gonna make a change, just make sure you notate in a memo for record that you made the change. For whatever reason.
Yeah. Keep notes in your ATF tickler file, right?
And keep in mind too, just because you use that TTSN doesn't mean that you have to file by that number. You can certainly use that number and file in chronological order. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, you just have to be consistent in the way you file for
Yep.
retrieving and trace
Yes.
purposes.
Yeah, but you want to make sure there's a clean break, and that's that clean break or change is somehow notated, and all previous records basically are locked up. You made the change on this date, and you're not taking the transfer paperwork from that date on and commingling it with the previous way you were doing it, because that's going to confuse them at the tracing center.
All right, if the gun was transferred to a customer, get rid of that. On the Brady date, the ATF sent us a denied status the next day. The customer still has a firearm on layaway. When he comes back to pick up the firearm in a few months, and when we run a next check, is it reasonable to expect an immediate denial response? And if the responses are delayed, is it good practice for us to hold the gun longer than a Brady date considered this customer's history? Thanks.
There's no guarantee. I mean, he could, he got denied. He could go right now and file an appeal and get it overturned. And if he gets it overturned, maybe you get a delay again. That's up to you. But if he hasn't filed an appeal or requested, it to be reviewed, then yeah, you can certainly hold the gun since you did get it denied on him. There's nothing saying that you are required to transfer the firearm to him. Um, you know, it probably behoove you, especially if you do get a delay, to hold the gun to see if potentially it does get a denied a day late. That probably makes sense, but there's nothing saying that it's going to happen that way.
Just so you guys know, if any customer ever gets denied, it stays that way forever until they appeal it.
Right.
They have to appeal it, even if it was wrong and they got mixed up with somebody else. Unless they go through the process, NICS will always check the denied database first for anybody denied in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Black powder in Illinois is firearm. All right, I may have missed it, but what would be a good time frame to do? We did that. What was the time frame you mentioned? Can a passport be used with supplementary docs for 4473? And where can we check that would work as a supplemental? Would car registration, which has name and address, be used as backup?
Yeah, any combination. So the passport's got a name, a date of birth, a photo, but it doesn't have an address. So you're going to have some secondary government issued document that has their address on it. And you got to make sure the name and all that matches, right? But yeah, it can be any combination of government issued documents to establish identity.
Jeff, send me an email, JB, and I'll send you the email that explains this whole 26B process.
Yeah.
So you have all the do's and don'ts.
Yep.
Okay. Age will be required for the new required 40 Colorado State inspections. They would then know if we bought a gun from someone under 21. Would this be an issue with the new dealer licensing in Colorado? So JC is gonna dig into all of the Colorado stuff.
Yeah.
As it continues.
Nothing's come forward as far as rules are concerned on that. So we'll make sure we address that with the Department of Revenue. The fact that, hey, somebody moves to the state that's under 21 and has a handgun, you can't prohibit an FFL. You really want to prohibit an FFL from taking possession of that handgun from that individual? So, and obviously, anybody that was under 21 before the law went into effect is another story, even though, maybe they're not quite there yet, right? So there's a number of different scenarios, and we can address that with the state.
Yeah. We'll probably hold a special Colorado training session once we get more detail in fact.
Yeah.
I have a change of address inspection on this Thursday. Is there anything I should prepare for other than checking my new location? Oh, okay, new FFL.
Oh, that's just an amended FFL. No, not necessarily. I don't know when the last time you were inspected was. So they could potentially inspect you, do a firearms compliance inspection as well. But that sounds to me like you amended your FFL and they're just coming out to verify the premises are there, to check all the information that you input on the amended FFL. Probably want to get a landlord letter from you or something like that, to prove that your landlord knows that you're, performing firearms related commerce at that location. They'll probably check security and things of that nature, but other than that, no, not necessarily.
All right. And the last question from Matthew. So if I store my 4473s by date, the number doesn't matter, correct? And the answer is correct.
That's correct. Yeah, the number doesn't matter. If you file your 4473s in a chronological order, what you put up in the TTSN doesn't matter.
Yeah, as long as you can verbalize and explain to the IOI when he or she shows up to do your inspection that you filed by date. Right. All right. So listen, that was a great 2 hours, JC. Everyone, thank you very much. We'll send this recording out at the end of the week. As always, get out there, do your FFLC Academy training, get your employees compliant. We'll see you guys in March. I think the tentative date is March 17th. We'll let everybody know about that and get that updated. And we'll keep you updated along the way with all this White House stuff and Attorney General decisions, etc. So thank you. And you know where to reach us. Let us know if we can help.
All right. Y'all take care. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Dan Prepper Dan, give me a ring. I'll talk to you privately on anything you need. Okay. Thanks, Anna. We'll see you later. Thanks, Dee. Thanks, Chloe. See you, everybody.